Find a comfortable position. Let your body settle without hurry. There is nothing you need to hold upright now. Nothing you need to keep carrying from one part of the afternoon into the next. Today's story is called A 20-Minute Nap in a Sunlit Window Seat. The seat is already waiting in the warmest corner of the room. Not bright in any glaring way, not hot, only gently claimed by afternoon light that has been leaning through the window for long enough to make the cushion warmer on one side than the other, and to soften the painted wood around it into quieter color. The window seat is built into the wall beneath the glass, deep enough that the body can settle there without needing to balance carefully, wide enough for knees to draw a little closer or stretch a little longer depending on what feels easiest. A cushion lies across it, quilted or padded, not perfectly smooth, but softened in the middle where bodies have leaned before, and found that it asked very little of them beyond staying still. One corner holds itself flatter than the rest. The fabric at the back has settled more deeply against the wall, where shoulders usually come to rest once sitting becomes something slower and heavier. The painted wood around the seat has warmed with the day. The sill beside you is broad enough to rest a hand on. The frame rises close at one side. A curtain hangs there too, drawn back enough to let the light fall through, but not so far that the whole outside world insists on entering. Its edge hangs still in the held air of the room, one fold brighter where the sun finds it, another already dimmer where the shadow of the frame reaches across it. Nothing about it stirs unless the light changes, and even then the change is slow enough to be barely more than a softening. You sit down, and the seat receives you at once. The cushion gives first at the backs of the legs, then more fully beneath the hips as your weight settles into the softer middle. One shoulder comes naturally toward the wall or the side of the frame. The body does not need to test the window seat in stages for long. It is not one of those places that asks to be arranged or corrected over and over. Its shape has already done much of the work. The back has something to lean into. The side has something to rest against. The cushion beneath you has already learned how to take a body that no longer wants to keep itself poised. The warmth reaches you in small, precise places. Across one knee first, where the sunlight lies. Then over the back of one hand if you leave it in your lap. Then at the sleeve nearest the glass, where the afternoon has settled longest and the fabric begins to hold it for a while before releasing it again. The other side of the body remains a little cooler, not cold, only less touched by the window. That difference matters. It gives the seat its shape in sensation as well as in wood and cushion. One side leans into light, the other leans into support. Outside the pane, the afternoon continues, but it is already at the right distance. The glass keeps it there. Whatever lies beyond, garden, leaves, a strip of path, the pale movement of sky through branches, arrives softened by the pane and framed by the wood. Nothing outside is near enough to ask anything of the body. A branch may shift gently now and then. A patch of brightness may move over one leaf and then another, but none of it reaches you directly. The glass turns distance into quiet. The room does the rest. Your back settles more fully. At first, it may still hold some remnant of the day's uprightness. Then the cushion at your side begins to receive that too. The muscles at the shoulders loosen a little. The line from neck to arm grows less intent. One hand comes to rest on your lap or along the edge of the seat, and the other may stay near the sill where the painted wood is warm enough to feel lived in by the light. The body does not collapse. It simply begins to hand over more of its weight. The room around the seat asks almost nothing. There may be a wall beside you, pale or warm in tone. A little stretch of floor below, perhaps a small table nearby, or a book left closed on the sill, or a folded throw within reach. But none of these needs much attention. The window seat is already enough. Cushion beneath, frame at one side. Afternoon through glass, still air in the room. That is the whole logic of the story. And because it is enough, the body can stop searching for anything larger or more elaborate. You draw one foot a little closer in, not because you must, only because the seat allows for it. The other follows or remains where it is, depending on what feels easiest. The position does not need to be perfect. The seat has the kind of quiet generosity that lets a posture become restful through use rather than through exactness. A knee can lean against the frame. A shoulder can rest a little more fully at the back. The side of the head can begin to think about where it might settle later without needing to settle yet. All of it is gradual. All of it belongs to the same slow agreement between body and place. The patch of sunlight across your lap remains where it is for a while. Its edges are soft, not sharply outlined. One part of it reaches across the cushion more brightly than the other because the angle of the glass and the curtain and the frame has divided the afternoon into these gentler layers. Dust may move in that brightness if the room is still enough, and the eyes happen to rest there. Not enough to become an event, only enough to show that the light is real, crossing the held air one small drifting particle at a time. The fabric under you has its own quiet truths. The cushion gives most at the back, where bodies lean. The front edge is firmer. A seam runs beneath one hand and feels flatter in the places where repeated use has pressed it down. The cloth is neither coarse nor silky. It is simply the kind of fabric that keeps its shape until weight teaches it otherwise. That lived-in give is one of the reasons the seat becomes trustworthy so quickly. It has already held stillness before. Outside, something pale passes over the garden light. A cloud, perhaps, or the shifting angle of a branch. For a moment, the sunlight on your lap lowers by one quiet shade, then returns again, not with any rush, only with the slow patience of afternoon continuing. The body notices this without needing to become alert to it. It is enough to know that the light changes and changes back while you remain where you are. The seat keeps holding you either way. The sill beside you is broad and still. Its paint has dulled softly over time where hands have rested there. In one place, the edge may be smoother. In another, the warmth held by the wood is stronger where the sunlight falls directly through the glass. If your fingers lie there, they can feel the difference between painted wood warmed through by hours of light and the cooler seam where the frame throws shadow. Those small changes are enough to keep the senses occupied without ever becoming stimulating. Warm, less warm, fabric, painted wood, held air, light beyond closed lids or at the edge of sight. By now, there is very little left to adjust. By the time a few breaths have passed in the seat, there is very little left to do. The spine no longer needs to keep the same upright conversation with the room. The shoulders have somewhere to go. The hands have somewhere to rest. The lap has accepted the warmth of the afternoon patch. Even the face, turned a little toward or away from the pain, has stopped relating to the outside as something to look at and begun relating to it simply as brightness held at the proper distance. That is enough for the first settling. The window seat does not need to persuade you. It only needs to continue being what it is, a cushioned recess in a quiet room, a little structure of painted wood and fabric and afternoon light, a place already shaped to receive the body and ask less of it. The seat continues to gather you in. The warmth on your lap remains. The back of the cushion receives more of your weight than it did at first. The side of the frame or wall steadies one shoulder, not by pressing against it, but by being there closely enough that the body stops having to hold its own line in open space. Even the air near the glass feels slightly different from the air deeper in the room, not breezy, not moving, only brighter somehow, thinner with light where the rest of the room is fuller, and more shaded. One hand comes to rest more completely than before, perhaps over your lap where the warm patch lies, perhaps along the sill, perhaps against the cushion beside you where the fabric has already been pressed into a familiar hollow by the shape of your body. However it rests, it no longer needs to do anything. Fingers uncurl a little. The wrist loosens. The hand stops belonging to motion and begins belonging to stillness. The same happens at the shoulders. At first, there had been some faint memory in them of the day, of having carried small tasks, small movements, the ordinary uprightness that belongs to being awake. Here, in the window seat, that memory starts to fade. The support at your back means they do not need to remain lifted in the same way. They can lower without dropping. They can stop holding themselves half ready for what comes next. The curtain edge beside the glass keeps its place. It hangs quietly in one long fold, darker where the frame shadows it, brighter where the sun catches the nearer edge. It matters less as fabric than as boundary. It helps make the seat feel more enclosed without shutting out the day entirely. Light still reaches you. Outside still exists, but both have been softened by the simple fact of cloth, frame, and glass making the world smaller than it was outside the room. A branch moves and lays a broken shadow briefly across the sill. The shadow lifts. The light returns. That is all. The body no longer belongs to those changes in the way it would if it were standing outdoors under them. Here, it receives only the gentled version. The glass takes the edge off distance. The room takes the edge off everything else. The cushion tells the truth about itself more clearly the longer you remain on it. It is softer where the back leans most, flatter near one seam, a little firmer at the front. There is perhaps a quilt spread over it, or a cover with faint stitching beneath your hand, each line pressed smoother by many afternoons of use. If your weight shifts by even a little, the fabric answers in the smallest way and then settles again. The seat is not trying to be luxurious. It is simply well used in the exact places that matter. That is what makes it feel expensive. Not decoration, not abundance, just truthful support. The warmth across your lap deepens by staying. It is not increasing. It is simply no longer leaving. The fabric of your clothes has begun to keep some of the light's warmth close, and because the rest of the room remains still, that small stored warmth is enough to matter. One side of your body remains in the sun's quiet reach. The other remains more shaded, leaning into cushion or wall. Between the two, the body finds its own middle place, neither exposed nor shut away, only held. Your eyes may still rest on the pane for a moment. If they do, the frame and sill matter more now than the world beyond them. The painted wood has a soft dullness where hands have touched it over time. The corner nearest you may hold the faintest worn patch. The glass itself shows almost nothing of its thickness until the light strikes one edge and turns it pale for a second before fading again. The room has become more real than whatever lies beyond it. Outside, movement remains slight. Leaves shift once in a higher branch. A blur of brightness passes over something green. Perhaps the edge of the garden path appears pale, and then not pale as shadow crosses it. None of it holds for long. The body is no longer set toward the afternoon as something to observe. It is set within the seat as something to rest. That is the true work of this scene. The window does not invite the body outward. It keeps the world just visible enough that the body can remain inward without feeling cut off from the day. The seat does more of the work now. A shoulder leans more fully. The side of your head begins to understand where it could rest if it chose to. The knees have grown heavier. Even the hands have stopped changing position and now simply remain where they settled. There is no urgency anywhere in the body. No need to straighten. No need to look around the room. No need to decide whether this is restful enough. The answer is already there in the cushion beneath you, in the light across your lap, in the pain, holding the outside at a distance gentle enough to be almost abstract. The room need not be described much more than this. That too is part of the premium feeling. Nothing unnecessary enters. Nothing distracts. There may be a quiet wall behind the seat, a little fold of throw or blanket near one side, a stillness in the room that has been there since before you sat down. But all of it exists only to support the main arrangement: seat, light, glass, body. If you breathe more slowly now, the change belongs to the seat as much as to you. The warmth remains over the lap. The back remains held. The frame and curtain keep the outside quiet. The body, finding no need to do anything more, begins to let the afternoon narrow around these few dependable things. Outside no longer matters as a place, only as a softened beyond layer held behind the pane. The window seat is the true world now. It keeps becoming clearer that what lies beyond the glass is not where the body belongs anymore. The pain has done that work well. It has taken whatever lies outside, leaves, a little brightness, perhaps a path, perhaps the pale lift of sky through a branch, and softened it into distance. The sill and frame matter more now than the garden. The curtain edge, the warm patch on your lap, the cushion beneath you, the painted wood under your hand, all of these are closer and more useful than the whole outside world beyond the pane. A higher branch shifts and the light changes again. This time it does not draw the eyes so much as pass over the skin. The warm patch across your lap narrows a little, then broadens again. The brightness on the sill lowers by one quiet degree, then steadies. That is enough motion for the story now. Seen through glass, received through light, never asked to become more. The outer air no longer has any real claim on you. That difference becomes clearer the longer you remain where you are. If the leaves outside move, they do so without reaching you. If the garden shifts in brightness, it does so beyond the pane. The room receives only the softened version, a dimming and lifting of light, a pale blur of movement, the knowledge that the day continues without needing the body to go back out into it. The seat takes more of your weight with every minute that passes without movement. What had first been sitting is now something quieter than sitting. The cushion receives the shape of your back more fully. The side support at your shoulder becomes less noticeable because it is no longer new. The knees, warmed where the light falls, no longer feel arranged there. They feel left there. One hand may have slipped lower into the lap. The other may have stayed on the sill or at the side. Either way, the hands have become quiet enough not to require further thought. The eyes rest more easily too. If they remain open, they no longer move in wide measures. They rest on the nearest useful things: the line where the light lies across the cushion, the edge of the sill, the still fold of curtain, the softened blur beyond the glass, then perhaps nowhere in particular at all. The room begins to hold the body the way afternoon holds light, without effort, without insistence, until change itself begins to slow. A little warmth gathers where your back leans into the seat. This is different from the sunlight on the lap. That warmth comes from stillness rather than from the window. The cushion has begun to hold the heat of your body where it presses most fully. The two kinds of warmth meet there, one from light, one from remaining, and together they make the seat feel less like a piece of furniture and more like a place already shaped around your presence. The head grows heavier next, not falling, only understanding more fully where it might rest. The side of the frame, the back cushion, the painted wall, whichever is nearest, begins to feel less like structure and more like permission. The neck no longer needs to hold itself in the same careful line. A slight tilt becomes possible, then a little more than possible. The body is not asleep. It has simply stopped maintaining a level of wakeful arrangement that is no longer needed. This is the point where the window seat begins doing almost all the work. It holds the lap in light. It holds the back in softness. It holds the outside at a distance. It holds the room in stillness. The body now has very little left to manage beyond remaining where it is. One tiny adjustment may still happen, a hand settling more deeply into the lap, a shoulder easing another fraction, the side of the head resting more fully into cushion or frame. After that, there is almost nothing left to improve. The sill remains warm near the glass and cooler nearer the room. The curtain fold remains motionless. The pane goes on dimming the world beyond. Perhaps the brightness outside has lowered by a tone now, becoming less golden and more even, less particular, and more like a held afternoon haze. The garden is no longer a place. It is only what the glass keeps beyond you while the body drifts further inward. A breath passes slowly, then another. The seat receives both. The body no longer leans into the story as though listening for what happens next. It leans into the cushion, into the warm patch, into the support behind the shoulders, into the fact that nothing else needs to happen for rest to deepen. The room itself has almost disappeared from active notice. No larger layout remains, no catalog of objects, only the parts directly involved in letting the body drift. The cushion under you, the support at your side, the sill near the hand, the curtain edge, the softened pane, the held light, the body growing heavier within all of it. That is all. And because that is all, the nap state becomes believable enough not to require persuasion. The outside is almost irrelevant now. It continues, yes, but only in the smallest permitted ways. A pale wash behind the glass, a branch moving slowly somewhere beyond it, the suggestion of leaves. Nothing more distinct than that. Even the sunlight on your lap is no longer something to notice as sunlight. It has become simply the warmed part of the body, the gentler side of the seat, the place where stillness and light have remained together long enough to stop feeling separate. The cushion does not need to be soft everywhere, only where you lean. The wall does not need to be visible in full, only near enough to keep the body from feeling exposed. The window does not need to offer a view, only enough dim outer life to let the room feel complete. Nothing more is needed than this, a hand at rest, knees warm beneath the afternoon patch, shoulders lowered, head leaning, breath quieter than before. There is nothing else required for the seat to become a nap place. If the eyes are still open, they do not hold much now. The sill, the fold of curtain, a softened brightness at the pane, perhaps the shadow of a leaf passing over the frame and leaving it again. If the eyes close, the same things remain in another form: warmth over the lap, support at the back, a held brightness through the lids, the quiet certainty of the seat beneath you. The story does not need to expand. It needs only to remain here long enough for the body to stop dividing attention between room and outside, between uprightness and rest, between now and whatever comes next. That has almost happened already. The side of your head finds its resting place more fully now. The neck eases into it. The back settles another quiet fraction into the cushion. The hands do not move. And in that held afternoon corner, with the window keeping the world at a distance, and the seat doing more and more of the work, the body has grown, so heavy with stillness that there is very little left of wakefulness except the soft knowledge of being here. Nothing more is needed. The seat remains beneath you. The support remains at your back and side. The warmth remains where the light has been falling longest. The pain still holds whatever faint world lies beyond it, but that world no longer asks to be followed. The curtain edge has become only a vertical softness at the edge of the field. The sill has become only the place near your resting hand. The light has become only the gentler warmth over lap and knees. The outside has become only a pale distance the body no longer belongs to. What remains nearest is smaller than all of that. The cushion, the support at the shoulder, the weight of your own hands, the warmth across your lap, the quiet behind closed lids or at the edge of sight. the slow rise and fall of breath, and after that, less and less to notice. The seat does not need to announce itself anymore. It has already proved itself. The light no longer changes in any way that matters. If it shifts too softly to disturb the body. If a leaf passes across the pane, it does so without asking the eye to rise and follow. The world beyond the glass keeps on with its own afternoon, but here in the window seat, the body has stopped needing any share in it. The cushion receives what remains. The side support keeps the body from any sense of falling away. The room holds the stillness in place. A breath passes, then another. The warmth on your lap remains. The hands stay where they rest. The head leans fully now. Nothing interrupts, nothing enters. Nothing asks for one more adjustment, one more look through the glass, one more thought before drifting. Only the seat beneath you, the warm patch of afternoon, the held room, the body no longer carrying itself in the old way. Then even those distinctions begin to soften, until there is almost nothing left but the feeling of being gently kept in one sunlit place.